Oprah, Trump, Beyonce, Branson. All instantly recognizable names, and all names that elicit deep feeling and opinion. But what if we all had the same name? How would society switching to a single name for women and a single name for men impact the access to opportunity, upward mobility, and wealth for all? British society has historically placed an emphasis on pedigree. It's why shows like Upstairs, Downstairs and Downton Abbey are so popular. And before smartphones, instant connectivity, and the ability to Google everything and everyone, the main indicator of class, society, and really how important you were in the world was your name, specifically the double-barreled surname. So instead of keeping up with the Joneses, we ought to be keeping up with the Smith-Joneses. Nameism, as I call it, and I know we don't really like to discuss the isms, racism, ageism, sexism, hard as it is to accept, nameism is probably the most common, the most unconscious bias there is. On a simple level, it's not wanting to name a baby Charlie, because all the Charlies that you know are mischievous. On a deeper level, it's the difference in getting a job or not. In 2004, the National Bureau of Economic Research in the US published a study called Are Emily or Greg More Employable Than Lakeisha and Jamal? And that study found that applicants with white-sounding names received 50% more callbacks for interviews than applicants with black-sounding names. And in this study, the only thing that was different was the name. Identical CVs were submitted. In 2015, the Debrett's Foundation found that a quarter of Britons aged 16 to 25 thought that a double-barreled surname would improve their chances of getting a work placement. In 2017, the BBC asked, is it easier to get a job if you're Adam or Mohammed? And that study found that applicants with English-sounding names received 3 times more callbacks for interviews than applicants with Muslim names. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why don't Lakeisha and Jamal's parents just give them normal, regular names? Well, that would mean that Hunter, Leaf, and Rain's parents would have to give them normal, regular names too. The ugly truth is, there is a double standard placed on unique black-sounding names that is not placed on unique white-sounding names. John Smith, Jane Smith, all of us with the same name. Would that mean the same access to opportunity? Would we all share in the wealth? As a business coach, every day I see the effects of perception on financial achievement. Clients and colleagues thinking, overthinking, brand names, product names, and if they have an unusual name, should they change to something else? Remember when Pizza Hut changed its name to Pasta Hut and there was a public uproar and they had to change it back to Pizza Hut again? The official statement was that that was a branding experiment. Even in my own life, my name has been a hindrance and a help. You see, I used to be Pierrette Julia Bernard. And it's a pretty unusual name for Trinidad and Tobago, which is where I grew up. So I was mostly Julia, except in secondary school where you have to use your official, proper, legal name. When I came to the UK 20 years ago, I stepped smack bang into a steep learning curve of the Anglo-French relationship. Because every time people saw my name, they would presume I was French. Vous êtes française? Parlez-vous français? Are you from the Ivory Coast? In various forms, this question came. And I would smile and explain that I was from the Caribbean. And after answering that question, one time too many to be polite, I decided to go by Julia everywhere. But what I didn't factor in was that in England, most Julias are English and white. And I'm not. And then when I got married and became Julia Bernard-Thompson, my name said English, white, and posh. You'll have to ask my friends about the posh bit. So what do we do? When I was preparing for today, I was worried about talking about this and coming across as the angry black woman. And the more I thought about it, angry is exactly how I'm supposed to feel. Angry that even now, with equality legislation and anti-discrimination laws on a global scale, that we are still talking biases on such a basic level of our humanness. And black or white, Lakeisha or Emily, Adam or Muhammad, angry is exactly how you are supposed to feel. Because injustice and inequality of any kind should make us all angry. And then we use that anger positively to affect change. Change on an organizational level. In 2017, UCAS, the United Kingdom's University and College Admission Service, introduced name-blind applications. Organizations such as the National Health Service, Deloitte, some local government agencies, KPMG, and HSBC also introduced name-blind applications for graduate and apprentice level roles. Smaller organizations can look at their senior management team. Does your C-suite have equal numbers of Adams and Jamals? Because then that leads to a better question. Are your decision makers reflective of the people and communities that they are making decisions for? In an organization, it's easy to run an algorithm, but we are people, and we can't run an algorithm on our brain. Instead, we can take positive steps to affect change on a personal level. Can you think of a time when you have heard a name that is unusual to you and you've said, or you've heard someone say, "What's the English version of that?" Or, "Can I call you?" and they've inserted a shortened version of the person's name, or some other seemingly innocent yet really inappropriate comment? Instead, try, "I've not heard that name before. Could you tell me the cultural significance?" Or, "I want to be sure I get your name right, so if I get it wrong, please correct me." In that moment, you give yourself a look into a different culture, and you lessen, because it never really goes away. You lessen that feeling of otherness for your new acquaintance. In a utopian world, in a future reimagined, bias, inequality, or discrimination of any kind, including nameism, does not exist. But today, right now, it does exist. And admitting it exists means examining our relationship to different, to other. It means being honest with ourselves about the conclusions that we come to when we hear a name that is unusual to us. In 2006, Barry Satoru began working his way through the machinations of the US electoral system because he wanted to become President of the United States. Senator seats, caucuses, primaries, party nominations, all the way through until on November 8th, 2008, Barack Hussein Obama was elected America's 44th president. I know what you're thinking. Barack Obama and Barry Satoru are the same? Yes, they are. In his younger years, Barack Obama went by the shortened first name of Barry, and his stepfather's surname was Satoru. And when his family moved from the US to Indonesia, you can imagine with an international move and children to enroll in school and all of the questions and paperwork that sort of thing involves, at some point it just became easier for everybody to go by the same surname. However, during his college years when he found his sense of self, like most of us do, he decided to go by his full name of Barack. And as far as names go, Barack Hussein Obama is the complete opposite of the all-American name. But it worked, quite possibly because it connected him to the people. his people in a way that the name Barry never would. So in his younger years, his name was changed to help him blend in, and then he changed it to stand out. Names shape us. They connect us to our culture and our history. Names help us stand out from the crowd. Names allow us to be us. And so I ask you to dream with me to a future where even if we all don't have the same name, we all have access to the same opportunities. Thank you.